Another thing that I know people can kind of get hung up on, and this is kind of switching gears a little bit, is the equipment that somebody's riding for a long distance ride. So let's say, right now they just got your standard like mountain bike and they're like not even sure where they're going to go. And, one person says you need a $10,000 bike. Somebody else says, no, you don't. It's just about the hours spent on the seat. I mean, what would you tell somebody who's maybe new to this or maybe even intermediate who has questions on equipment when it comes to a century ride or a multi-day ride like the Empire State Ride where you're doing 500 miles?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, depending on goals, but it's amazing how good of a bike you can get out there now for about $1,500, maybe even 2,000. You don't have to have a $10,000 bike to do any century or or the Empire State Ride. But I would suggest that, mountain bikes is probably not the best, thing for either one of those, unless it's a gravel type of race maybe. But if it's a road event, you want to be on, road wheels and road tires and, a somewhat light bike, and then having the right gearing. And then probably the most important thing of it all is making sure that whatever bike you decide to ride, whether it be a hybrid bike with, flat bars, but with, road wheels, or time trial bike, or whatever bike you decide to ride, bike fit is number one recommendation, because how you're sitting on that bike is going to make all the difference in the world on how you perform, your comfort level, and injury prevention. So think about bike fit. That's, I would rather see somebody on $1,000 bike with a good $200 bike fit than somebody on a $5,000 bike that doesn't fit them. The person on the $1,000 bike is going to be much happier.
Wow.
I can't really express how important bike fit is. And I, every year that I go, to the first day when we go to the to Wagner College and I'm sitting in the gym, a lot of people have bike fit questions for me, and we go through some kind of a really simple, easy bike fit that gets them into somewhat of a position. I'm not an expert bike fitter, and we have no tools there to do that. So it's not really the best time to do it. I would get a professional bike fit, and you can get them anywhere in the United States now. There's great bike fitters everywhere.
Well, and you also brought up a good point where it's like you don't want to be changing your fit substantially the day before the ride that you're going on, because you've done all this training and you've gotten your body accustomed to one type of fit, and then all of a sudden your body's probably going to be confused if you make major adjustments.
No doubt. Absolutely. No doubt. That's absolutely true. Yeah.
Okay, so kind of going off of equipment, as far as just getting your bike ready for one of these rides, is there anything that's like really important that jumps out to you? I mean, I know, of course, like you got to make sure your brakes are working, but like I know a lot of people kind of go back and forth on what they're supposed to do with their tires for pressure. What are your recommendations to somebody who's just, making sure their bike is set and ready to go for a long ride?
Let's see. Yeah, so when you talk about brakes, I would, for the Empire State Ride, here's what I do, for a ride like that. I put new brake pads on. And if you have disc brakes, I would put new disc brake pads on as well. So new brake pads. I'd put a new chain on, unless you've just put a new chain on in the last couple of months or so, or a month, I'd put a new chain on. Make sure you have the right cassette. So make sure you have a good cassette for Empire State Ride, which...
So for somebody who might not be familiar, that's just the rear cogs and just making sure that you have enough of them so that you can make some of those hills easier?
Exactly.
Okay. And what's a good standard for that if somebody's doing a long distance hilly ride? Would you say what kind of cassette would they be looking for? I would
do 1132, and that's if you have an 11-speed bike. And nowadays 1132s are really common. Bike manufacturers have created the derailleurs that can handle that big of a gear in the back, and then with a compact crankset in the front, you almost have a 1-to-1 gear ratio. You might not use it, but a couple of times like that finish on the third day, that is, I think it's the third day.
Frosty Acres, is it?
Yeah, it's a Frosty Acres,
Mm-hmm.
where, you know, it's at the end of a long day, and then you have like, you know, a quarter mile or so, you know, with a 12 to 13% pitch. You know, that's tough, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and so that, you know, that's when you slip it into 32 and you just go up nice and easy, and you know, you don't have to suffer as much. So, you know, all of those things are important. The great thing about the Empire State Ride is the mechanics are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got mechanics there, and they usually have some equipment there with them. But out of respect for those guys, the best thing you can do really is bring your bike clean, chains clean, everything, and you know, they might go over your bike and make sure all the bolts are tight, and you know, everything is okay, and the tire pressure is good, and they'll take care of that for you. But bring your bike with new brake pads, new chain, a good cassette in the back, and clean, and that'll be great. As far as tire pressure, the wider your tires, the less tire pressure you need. So, you know, nowadays a lot of people are riding the road on 28 millimeter tires or 25, where the standard used to be 23, and 23 was, you know, in the old days it was considered a pretty wide tire. So at 23, if you use, let's say, 100 psi on a 23 millimeter tire, you're probably only going to need, you know, 85 to 90 on a 25. And if you're using a 28, you only need 70 to 75 pounds per square inch on that. So it all depends on your on the width of the tire.